Cool. Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Meet them, see. Actually, I've been looking for an estate planner to send out some clients to, so that'd be perfect.
Yeah, if he doesn't work out, I got lots of names for you.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, all right.
That's really good to know. Everybody, thank you so much for getting on this webinar. Where tonight we're discussing what small business can do to really just take advantage of the opportunities that might be around by leveraging banks, and how do you properly use banks. I know oftentimes a lot of my banks, my friends don't understand how to use, and business people don't know how to properly use banks in those relationships. And I think right now it's such an important time to really understand banking. So I'm really glad to have Aben Hill, Senior Vice President at California Bank and Trust, on, adjacent professor at Golden Gate University, been in banking for 19 years, working with a lot of small businesses with banking. Thank you, Aben, for getting on to the webinar tonight. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me, and thanks to everyone. This is really an important time right now. As you know, we're in unprecedented times for all of us for a myriad of different reasons, but it's really, I think that it's really important to really talk to small businesses who are in need right now for information and resources to help support them not only just survive, but more importantly thrive in post-crisis times.
Definitely, man. I definitely appreciate it. I think this is just the beginning. We're still within the first quarter of the football game. So I think people need to be prepared and know what's going on. But, you know, a lot of people became millionaires and billionaires in the Great Depression and really took their business to the next level. So I think it's so important to really understand about what you're doing. So I'll go ahead and pull up your PowerPoint that you have, and we go from there. Perfect. There we go.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. And then, okay. So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is, as I mentioned, is how do we get small businesses to not just survive, but thrive in post-crisis times. It's really important to really know exactly where you are as a small business, what are some of the impacts, specifically now in the COVID-19 environment, what specifically are impacting small businesses, and including specifically minority small businesses during COVID-19 times.
Right.
The next slide. So when you think about the impacts of COVID-19 on small businesses, as you can see, generally anywhere from 20 to 75% of revenue loss is based on some of the COVID impacts. Specifically, when you talk about, you know, not being able to open up your doors to take on customers and generate revenues, especially if you're in a face-to-face customer type business or a service industry type business, you're really solely dependent, or majority dependent on customers coming in, servicing the customers face-to-face, and or providing some type of product or service. Additionally, when you look at that, you know, the other impact is, like I mentioned, is the customer retention. You know, if you're not there, customers are going to start going online. So, and I think as we've seen online in the news, really a lot of e-commerce businesses have really taken advantage of the opportunity with a lot of these retail and service industry businesses not being available to provide products and services. A great example would be Amazon. Amazon has increased their business almost threefold just in the course of the last 90 days or so, just because people can't get access to normal products and services or goods they would generally get when they go into a retail store, whether it be Best Buy or going to a clothing store, even in some instances, groceries, because folks are afraid to go out and there's restrictions based on the shelter in place. So a lot of folks are doing things online. Same thing with DoorDash. People are ordering food through DoorDash and not going out their house. So the challenges with small businesses is they can't get in front of the customers fast enough if they don't have an alternative way of doing business through e-commerce. This is really important to know. Roughly 2/3 of minority small businesses will probably will go out of business during or post-crisis. And the reason for that is lack of access to resources. Resources could be just information, capital to be able to supplement the revenue that they're missing through the business being shut down or being modified. Great example of one of the access was the SBA PPP loans. A lot of small businesses had an opportunity to take advantage of that. However, disproportionately, a lot of minority small businesses didn't take advantage of the PPP loans as much as they probably should, is based on lack of access to information and not sure who to call or who to go to. Do you have a specific banker that you talk to? Because a lot of the larger banks really, they didn't pick up the phone. There was no access to a banker. So that's another impact on small businesses, specifically minority small businesses. In addition to, if your doors are closed and you have employees, that means you can't pay your employees because you're not generating enough revenue to take care of your employees. So then you have a challenge with losing your employees because your business is not operating, or you need to downsize or lay off some of your employees temporarily because of lack of revenues. And what do employees do? Employees still have bills to pay. They have a mortgage or rent to pay. They have car notes to pay. They have school tuition in some instances to pay as well. They got to put food on the table and provide for the families, but they can't do that if they're not working. The other challenge for impact with small business around employees is in the next month or two, as we start moving towards phase 2 and phase 3 of opening restrictions to allow businesses to start operating on a more normalized basis. The challenge is going to be is some of those employees that were laid off back in March and April now have already went to the unemployment and they got unemployment services and are getting unemployment payments. And in some instances, especially in some of the lower paying service industry jobs, they're getting paid a lot more than with unemployment than they would with being employed. So that puts a dilemma between the business owners and the employees, because now they're not getting paid as much if they go back to work. A lot of folks have decided to stay off work and ride it out and continue to take unemployment benefits, which are much higher than their hourly rate they were getting from their employer. So there's a lot of different factors involved in which impacting small businesses and their ability to stay afloat, number one. And number two is their ability to be able to continue to survive post-crisis if they make it to that point. So, really having access to resources of information on where to go, who to talk to, what type of bank should I go to, do I have a reliable banker? Those are all important things that small business owners need to be able to help support them and making the right decisions.
Yeah. Having that small business is so important, having that relationship. I know it helped me out a lot during this period of time. So definitely you're right about that. And it was crazy. As you were talking about people going online, like today, Zoom came out with their sales expectations, and it blew through the roof, the amount of sales and how much money they've been making, way more than expected. So it just tells you how much people are doing things online. It's crazy.
Yeah, and to your point, Jason, technology matters. A lot of folks said, "Oh, technology is moving, but I can still do what I have been doing for a long time." But now, when you're not able to be able to go out and reach your customers, the normal way of customers walking through your door, you got to be able to reach them. So technology does matter in a lot of ways. So it's really important, especially for small businesses as well as minority small businesses, to be able to have the necessary resources and capital to be able to upgrade their technology to be able to support them, their ability to be successful. One great example would be nonprofits, and specifically churches, right? Churches generate a lot of their revenue through weekly tithes from parishioners coming into the church and tithing. You know, not thinking about it, that pre-COVID, who would have thought we had a global crisis and pandemic, which would really just put the globe on ice and really shut things down and really have everyone sheltered in place. So now as a church, now they have to think about other ways to how they get revenue and get their tithes. So a lot of churches were caught off guard by not being able to upgrade their technology to be able to take payments or tithes online through our app, online services and merchant services versus just having to come in and write a check or cash. So a lot of churches are really scrambling right now to try to stay afloat, just to pay their bills and pay their rents and mortgages because of the lack of technology. So that's really, really super important. But as you mentioned, Jason, a great question is, what should small business look for in finding the right banking relationship, right? That's really critical. Having the right banking relationship as a small business owner is super, super critical. One is when you're looking for a bank, is the bank invested in the community? And what I mean by that is not just are they active in the community, but are they solely invested in the community? What are they doing in the community? You see them in the community, you hear about them in the community. Are they, actively involved providing access to the capital and resources, not just providing donations, but are they actually lending to the folks in your community that look like you and also are they supporting small businesses? What does that look like? And also, reputation matters. Do they have a good reputation in the community for serving the folks in your community? It's really important as well. Secondarily, do the products and services match your banking needs? Currently as also into the future. Generally, when you look at developing a banking relationship with a bank, do they fit your needs currently? So based on where your business sits at today, does the bank currently have the products and services and the access to these, or the ATM machine, online banking needs that you have currently for where your business is today? Secondarily is looking forward, are the services that the bank offer, do they offer the services that's going to help you grow and meet your needs into the future? What does that look like 2 or 3 years from now? So right now, as a small business owner, if I'm a two-person shop and I'm working and I'm growing revenues, but then 2 to 3 years from now, I want to be at closer to 15 to 20 employees. Do the services of that bank help me get to there, or do I need to keep hopping and moving from bank to bank because the services they provide don't necessarily fit the needs of my bank today and into the future? Thirdly, in developing a relationship with the banker is understanding how knowledgeable and experienced is the banker. Are you working with a banker that has experience in the banking industry? Matter of fact, specifically, do they have experience working in the industry that you're in? Whether it be if you're a service industry, as a staffing company, or as in the technology sector, or in the financial services industry, does the banker that you're working with have up-to-date knowledge and understanding of your industry, specifically be able to provide you the right type of advice and the right type of solutions to provide to help support you in your business and help your business grow based on the industry that you're in? Lastly, is your banker accessible? I think a lot of folks found out the hard way during the PPP process when they try to call the bank that they've been with for 15, 20 years or more, and no one picked up the phone, right? Or you couldn't get a hold of them, they didn't call you back, right? So really making sure that, is there a commitment between you, yourself as the business owner, and the bank, and specifically your banker. Does your banker give you access to their cell phone? Do they let you know what times they're available to support them? And when you do call them, do they pick up the phone? Well, number one. Number two, do they call you back timely? Number three, are they able to provide you the information that you need on when you need it and how you need it is really critical as well.
Yeah, that's huge. I know a couple of my clients and friends that say, "Hey, I was trying to call my bank during this period of time." It was like, I haven't got a call back. I haven't got no information. I keep calling, the line is busy. I haven't heard nothing, and I need this information, trying to figure out how my business is going to survive. They couldn't get in contact with nobody. It was frustrating for them. It was stressful. They were trying to figure out what they're going to do with payroll or about their business. It was huge during this time. So you're right, being accessible, especially during this crisis, is huge for a lot of people just trying to figure everything out.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many calls that I personally received um, during the PPP loan process for the last 60, 90 days. I was getting calls on Saturday, Sunday, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Pick up the phone, answer it. Whether it be an email or a phone call or text message to be able to provide information, so that way, one, provide peace of mind. Number one. So you want looking at having a qualified banker. Is this the right banker for you? Do they able to provide you peace of mind? Are you able to build trust with them? Number three, the other thing is, do they listen to you? Are they active listeners? Are they just talking and telling you what you need to do? Or are they taking the time to really ask the right questions, to really understand you as a business owner, understand your business, how it operates, and also ask to find out what are some of the successes and challenges that you're facing, and then how best as a banker can help support you with overcoming some of those challenges, but also helping you grow into the future where you want to go. It's really important.
Definitely, those are really good points. I need to make sure I remember that myself. That's huge.
So when you're looking, so one big question, the elephant in the room is, I'm a small business. I just either just started or I've been in business for, 12 to 18 months or so, or even 2 to 3 years. And I've been really just funding the business just through my own funds, right? But and after a while, that's not sustainable unless you have $1 million sitting in the bank, right? And even then, you don't want to use all your reserve capital to support growing your business. So you need to start building some credit, right? And specifically business credit. So one of the things that we talk about and talking to small businesses is you want to start with having a solid personal credit history, right? Because that's really important. So having a FICO score of 680 or higher will definitely help support you in establishing the business credit, especially for the first time. So one of the things that I advise small business is looking at establishing some type of credit, whether it be through a business credit card, with a reasonable credit limit of anywhere from $500 to $5,000 to get started. So that way you're able to start establishing some business credit, showing that you're worthy to take on larger credit line amounts, specifically with being able to have the access, be able to pay things back on time, which is really important. Another way of doing that is if you do have some cash, disposable cash, starting with a secured credit card or a secured line of credit is always a great way to start. It gives you the opportunity to really establish credit. You can put as little as $500 and get a secured credit card, or up to $500 to up to $1,000 in the savings account, and you pledge that towards either a credit card or a line of credit, and then you lend off banks will lend off of that for you, and then as you start establishing your ability to be able to successfully pay that back, then you're able to build successful business credit, where then you can get unsecured credit through either credit card or a line of credit. In order to do any of that, is the fundamental blocks of establishing good credit is, are you paying your vendors and bills on time? Because that's, one of the C's of credit is credibility, right? So really, really being able to pay your vendors on time and pay your bills on time is really critical to establishing not only business credit, but also establishing a good business relationship and credibility as well.
Definitely. Can you explain the difference for a lot of people who might not know on your personal credit, understanding business credit, which is like some people think your business credit is just your regular FICO score, but I know there's other business credit. Can you explain that, especially for corporations, LLC, S corps?
Yeah, so the difference, and just try to just make it really simple for you. So, personal credit history is based on your FICO solely, and then on the business side of things is really based on Dun and Bradstreet, which is a little bit similar to the to the FICO, but it's solely based on for small business and corporations. So it's really based on your ability to pay your vendors and your banks credit limits back on time. So that's really, I guess, the simplest way to put it. Your small businesses and corporations are based on DMB record, not an individual FICO score.
All right, thanks, man. Yeah, definitely helpful. I think a lot of small businesses, people, sole proprietors, LLCs hear about business credit but don't understand that. So that's huge to explain to them.
Yeah, and that's where having a banker that you know and trust is really critical in helping provide that information for you timely.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. We're not just talking about the check cashing people. We're talking about actual banking and having those relationships with those people you can trust, which is huge. And I think that's why there's such a huge gap we have between a lot of minorities who are not getting the PPP money and who suffer because we don't have where we haven't built up the trust within our banker. Like you said, I think a lot of us go to the Safeway, open up a bank account at Safeway with the person, get the free checking account, and that's it. Not knowing the deepness or why the relationship is so important. So that was a really good point.
Absolutely. Access to information is critical. It's out there. You just need to know where to go get it, and then just have the will and drive to keep searching and searching until you get it. That's really, really critical.
Right.
So we talk about right now, if you're an existing small business and you've been impacted by, COVID-19, and you're looking to figure out how do I survive and how do I continue growing, and then if I'm going to a bank, what are some questions that a banker may ask me when I'm going to the bank to look for getting access to additional capital? So one of the questions we would ask you is, how are you currently operating your business? Are you operating your business at full capacity? Are you closed? Or are you operating at just modified capacity? One of the things we talk about, if you're operating at a modified capacity, maybe just doing takeout for specific for example for a restaurant, what's the extent of that? Provide specific information around. I do it Monday through Thursday. We don't work on Friday, but we work Saturday and Sunday, or we work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Wednesday through Sunday, and not working Monday and Tuesday. So they're going to be asking specific questions on how you're actually operating currently, if you're operating at all right now. If you're closed and you're not operating right now, how long will you be closed? And when is a projected time where you think you'll be reopening? And obviously that's always a tough question to answer, because it's really hard to tell based on what the restrictions are when the restrictions will be lifted based on the shelter in place. But I know in California right now, where for the most part everyone's in some level of phase 2. And then, so that's really about probably being able to project, when you'll be able to open either full-time or part-time to start generating some additional revenue. So that way you have the ability to repay any type of credit request that you're asking for. Secondarily, how and to what extent had the impact on your revenues and operations and your expenses currently? What does that look like? Like I mentioned in the beginning in the earlier slide, have your revenues been impacted by 20% this year versus last year, or has it been impacted by 75%? What does that look like? and what existing expenses do you have? Because obviously you really want to look at the type of if you have payroll expenses, if your payroll expenses prior to um, the crisis, your payroll expenses were roughly $100,000. Now, after COVID, it has impacted you. Now, instead of $100,000 in payroll expenses, now your payroll expenses are only $20,000. Right. So you need to be able to understand that, and when you'll be able to get up there and up to speed, and how are you able, what's your ability to be able to generate additional revenue to get back up to that, 75, 80, 900% of revenues that you were accustomed to prior to the impact. Are you able to do that and do that successfully? And do you have to do that in phases? Is that going to be, in 2 months time, or is it going to be in 180 days time, or is that looking at 12 months? So be prepared to be able to have your finances together, and looking at interim financial statements for the first quarter, and also interim statements up until like now this is the beginning of June, so having interim statements up to end of May 31st would be helpful. And then also being able to have your end of year statements for 2019, so that way banks are able to take a look at your operations, what it looked like in 2019, and so that way it can feel a little bit more comfortable with your ability to be able to generate the revenues that you had pre-COVID. It's really important. Next is, are there any liquidity concerns? How much cash do you actually have on hand? So a lot of times banks will look at, looking at the amount of revenues that you're generating minus your expenses, and then look at how much and divide that by the amount of cash you have on hand, and to find out how many months of liquidity of operating capital do you have to be able to sustain yourself for how many months. So that's really important too, because cash is king. If you don't have cash, how are you going to be able to generate revenue by products and services and materials to help support your business? But also, if you're able to bring employees back, do you have enough cash on hand to be able to take care of payroll, to be able to support your needs and operating your business effectively? Lastly, when you're looking at from a crystal ball, and I know it's really tough when banks ask you, so where do you foresee any challenges or expenses over the next 6 to 18 months? That's a great question, right? So nobody really truly knows where they're going to be 6 to 18 months, but a really good business owner who's really involved in their business will be able to take time to sit back and think about what does my business look like, and as far as my operation looks like, and what's the projected revenues that I think I'm going to be able to get over the next 6 to 18 months, so that way you can provide some accurate projections for bankers, so they can figure out, what's your ability to be able to generate enough revenues to be able to make payments on the credit that you're requesting as well. So it's really important to be able to understand your business to the point where you're able to provide some realistic projections of revenue being generated, and also be able to project what your expenses will look like as well to offset that too. So it's really important, as I mentioned, to have a banker that really understands you as a business owner, and really takes the time to really understand your business, not only just from the outside, but really be able to take the time to review your financials with you, help you understand exactly what some of the successes are, what your strengths rather, and then also what are some weaknesses that you may need to look at to make different decisions to help shore up some of those weaknesses, to be able to support your ability to grow in the future, and also be ready to take on some additional credit as well.
Yeah, man. And it's so important. You said 6 to 8 months. I've been telling my clients, let's say, hey, let's figure out where you want to be in the next let's figure out how we can survive the next 6 to 12 months. But let's really then figure out how can we really strive and have the life we want for the next 12 to 18 months. But based on you saying, it's more like, let's give a best case, worst case scenario for 18 months, especially when they're talking about we're going to have a second wave with this COVID and we don't know how our government reacts. So we got to pray for the best but plan for the worst at this point in time, just because we simply don't know how things are going to be. Like you said, we don't know if it's going to be a V recovery, a W recovery, or an L-shaped recovery. So what you're saying is so important right now. Really understanding where you are right now, where do you stand, and how can your business stand during this period of time is huge.
Yeah, and the other thing is we really have to, for small business owners, I know it's really challenging right now. You got a lot of things coming at you at the same time. You got to figure out how you're going to keep your business going, how you're going to take care of your family. But there has to be some level of patience, personal restraint to really to take the time to take a step back, really understand what is in front of me, okay, and then what specific actions do I need to take in order to support my efforts in getting my business operating again at the level that it needs to in order for me to be able to thrive as a small business, but also be able to provide for my family. So what that's going to take is think about it as a 7-course meal. You're not going to eat all 7 courses at one time because you'll get a stomach ache, right? So one thing is you eat each course at a time. Take one phase at a time, one course at a time to help support you in getting back on track. And part of that is making sure that you have the right bank, you choose the right bank, you choose the right banker, and then you identify the right resources that's going to help support you and taking your business to the next level, and also helping your business be able to survive this post-crisis time. So those are some really important things that you need to think about and be patient. I know it's hard to do, but it's something that's necessary. There's a high level of discipline that's needed. I know business owners are passionate about what they do every single day. And I'm very impressed with the small businesses that I encounter, how passionate they are, but also passion doesn't create success. It's a part of it, but the discipline and understanding your business and understanding making the right informed decisions is really the critical keys to success and helping the small businesses go into the future.
Yeah, those are some really good. Passion does great success. I like that. Discipline is key. I'm just right now, that's just huge. I can see that a lot where people get excited. They don't know everything that goes along with it. Not doing the whole planning aside. You're not really thinking about the big picture. You're right. That's a really good point.
So as you talked about, what are some resources available to small businesses? You have the Small Business Development Corporation, SBDCs, the Minority Business Development Agencies. Those 2 agencies really help you be able to put a business plan together, help you restructure your business, provide additional resources around financial literacy for small businesses. And I think that's a really key component for small businesses, because in some instances, small businesses owners have really great ideas, and that's the reason why they're entrepreneurial. But there's other fundamental blocks to being so successful, and that's really being able to understand the financials inside and out from A to Z. Not leaving the financials just to a bookkeeper or a trusted friend or a family member, but really taking the time to review the financials on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to really support your ability to make the right decisions and grow in the business. Obviously, the Small Business Administration, SBA, is another great resource to supporting small businesses through, SBA 504 and SBA 7A loans, and also most recently the PPP loans. So the great resource for small business owners. In addition to, especially in smaller communities, there's the community development financial institutions or financial development corporations called FDCs or CDFIs. Those are also great resources similar to the Small Business Development Corporation, but they also have the ability to be able to provide access to capital to small businesses, and particularly minority small business and women-owned businesses as well. So that's another great resource to support, small businesses that may or may not be ready for a traditional bank loan, but still need access to capital. It's a great opportunity to leverage those CDFIs, FDCs, because they also generally provide a educational component to that process as well. And then also some of the community banks, as I mentioned earlier, the ones that are really truly invested in your community, some of the smaller banks where they know you by first name, that when you walk into the bank or you pick up the phone, Joe or John or what have you will pick up the phone. Sally will pick up the phone and answer your call. Or if you need something, you maybe have their cell phone, you pick up the phone, you have a quick question or something that you need to get answered really quickly, that that the trusted banker on the other line will pick up the phone and provide you that information timely. So that's, community banks is really critical to the overall success of the economy, but also super, super critical for the overall success of small businesses as well. And then lastly, as I mentioned around, technology advancement, there's been a plethora of fintech companies that have come on into the market industry to really try to help small businesses as well that are not ready for a traditional, and they may be growing really fast and may not be eligible for a regular traditional bank loan, but they have good cash flow, they're growing really fast, but they just need just a little bit more assistance. And, fintech companies are good, alternatives for lending for small business to get you up and running and get you over that hurdle until you're ready and get stabilized, revenues and expenses to support you to be able to get a traditional bank loan.
Definitely. Thanks so much. I mean, those are really good things, and definitely places where people should really do thinking about resources, especially when you have they say the estimate we can have over 2 million people file for bankruptcy in America, and you say 2/3 of minority businesses going to fail. And I hate to hear that number, especially when I think right now how I feel is we're having a huge wealth gap. And I think one pillar of building wealth is through business ownership. So this is huge, great information that people really should take advantage of, use the information you give. So I really do appreciate that.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And I think the other thing, as you mentioned, not only is information, access to information. A lot of small business owners are potential entrepreneurs. They have great ideas, but they don't know what steps to take in order to get the business started or to be able to create a business plan. The access to information to like a small business development center or a minority business development agency, they really help you craft the idea, put your business plan together, and be able to present it to get additional capital is really critical. So, access to information is probably the most important thing to help support small businesses in the startup phase, but also the access to continual information and capital is critical for the overall success and continued success for small businesses.
Definitely, man. And it's good to have these resources. Like I said, I think especially with everything that's going on in this world, a lot of businesses, you hear the stressful 60 minutes of people's voices and lose hope. And you just gave a lot of people hope and inspiration and some key tools on how they can do the right thing, which I'm so thankful for you getting on the call tonight.
Oh no, thank you, Ed. It's my pleasure. I think that's one of my charges or passion is really to be able to help small business owners to be support. That'll be a big support and a resource to them, because the one thing that I really love about meeting with small businesses is really try to understand how did you come up with that idea for your business, and then just let them talk about, man, I came up with this idea. I was in college and I was talking to a friend, or I was sitting and talking to someone, and I saw something and I came up with this great idea to enhance an existing product or service, and then I just ran with it. So, and that takes a lot of courage and a lot of discipline to be able to take an idea and then make it come to fruition and then really nurture it and watch it grow, which is huge. Not everyone can do that.
Right, definitely. Thank you again, Aben. Thank you for getting on the call. I appreciate it so much. If you guys need a little more information, make sure you look at our YouTube channel, Jason Matthews, for any more information during this great COVID-19. Thank you so much once again, Aben. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, Jason. Greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right. Bye-bye.